Coming up, a new documentary series looks at Bighorn County, which has been dubbed the most dangerous place for Native American women in the country. Plus, we visit with a dentist who shares the importance of oral health. I'm Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Amarawahopa, thank you for joining us. We start today in Oklahoma, where Native leaders are facing a setback for the rights of students to wear regalia at graduations. The Oklahoma State Legislature had previously approved a bill allowing Native students at publicly funded institutions to wear traditional attire at graduations. Then last week, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt vetoed the bill. Stitt said the law would open a, quote, Pandora's box for groups to demand special favor to wear whatever they want at the ceremonies. Native leaders heavily criticized the move. Muskogee Nation Principal Chief David Hill said in a statement, "We must do the right thing by these students and respect their families' choices." Sponsors of the bill say they are eyeing a possible effort to override the veto. Now to California, where historic actions were taken last week to recognize the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous people. Hundreds attended a candlelight vigil held at the state capitol. As part of the observances, the Capitol Dome in Sacramento was illuminated red for the first time ever in support of MMIP. Red is the color that is widely recognized across the country for the movement. Tribal leaders and advocates joined California Assemblymember James Ramos for the three-day event. He opened the Assembly's floor session with a Serrano song and a designation of May as California Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Awareness Month. Ramos is the only Native American state lawmaker and wrote the bill for the Feather Alert, which was signed into law earlier this year. The goal is to unite the efforts of tribal nations and law enforcement in bringing relatives home. Some say the proposed Thacker Pass lithium mine in Nevada is key to making batteries for a cleaner economy. Others say it's an example of dirty projects that impact Indigenous lands. That view is shared by two young people who took to horseback recently for a prayer ride, all to raise awareness for their cause. ICT's Stewart Huntington caught up with them after the ride.
Out here in Nevada, they see desert and they want to turn it into a wasteland, but it's there where our people walked through, it's there where our people camped, and our ancestors had daily routines on those lands.
Gary McKinney and Josh Deeney want to preserve those lands and say an environmental review of the mining proposal was done hastily.
The environmental impact statement should have been done properly. It should have been done with due diligence, but it wasn't. It was fast-tracked, and fast-tracking goes to backtracking.
The pair spent much of March on a 230-mile horseback ride from Nevada's Walker River Indian Reservation to Thacker Pass to raise awareness about the proposed mining project. It's the second year they've done the ride.
This is part of, what we say, land back. We don't want to keep losing our lands. We want our land back that our people lived on.
If we're not together, if our people aren't standing strong, fast tracking will always happen. A lot of these natural resources are right next to reservations, and so we don't want these extraction industries to single out our sister tribes, because that's when the wolves will start coming in. They start circling, and we start seeing Wall Street contaminate our indigenous areas.
I asked what was next after the ride.
Well, I gotta say the ride isn't finished. We continue this prayer ride every day for the whole year.
In Minneapolis, Minnesota, Stewart Huntington, ICT News.
Well, a new collaboration with Sesame Street and a Native-owned TV company is aiming to spotlight Native culture. Healthy Habits for Life is a content-driven initiative launched by the Sesame Workshop in 2005 to help young children and their caregivers establish a foundation of healthy habits. It now includes portrait documentaries of both Osage and Oto Missouri families who maintain healthy cultural lifestyles. Some of the topics highlighted include language, art, music, and food. The series is set in Oklahoma and is produced by the media company Pursuit Films, formerly known as Fire Thief. It is an opportunity for Native families to share how they nurture their physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being in connection with their culture. The films debuted nationally in April, with more episodes to be released later this year. The Emmy Award-winning company said in a statement their mission is to emphasize Indigenous representation in the media. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Montana's Bighorn County is known as the most dangerous place in the country for Native American women. A new Showtime documentary series looks at the issues surrounding the deaths of 3 Native women. Razelle Benally is the director of Murder in Bighorn, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. Let's take a look at the trailer.
The darkness that has happened is this black cloud. The vapor, that energy just consumes your whole tribe.
Since colonization, Native women have been targeted.
Multiple families grieving over teenage girls.
There's so many of them.
You can get killed really easily around here.
I know something happened to her out there.
I hear this little small voice say, "Come find me, Dad."
Someone knows what happened. That someone is still walking around here.
As of right now, we don't have a crime.
She deserves justice.
It's very clear that there's foul play involved.
They told us don't go back there, and I'm wondering why.
They try to make it out that it's a white boogeyman killing people.
Our girls don't just die.
Somebody abducted her.
This is the most dangerous place for Native women in the country.
I don't think the issue's real.
They can take our women and nothing will happen. We're just supposed to
stay in the back and be a good Indian.
Razelle, what a trailer. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Wopila. Yate Hamadakyapi. Razelle Benally Machapie. Na Dona Yahipiki Iyucha Chante Washtea Nape Chuzapiksto. Ogla Lakota Nishle Hanikani Bashishchi. My name is Razelle Benally, and I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
Set the stage for us. What was it like to tell those stories?
It was extremely humbling. It changed my life, knowing that there are so many families out there whose story very much is like the ones that we share in the doc series. And, the whole purpose was really to just give a platform so that loved ones could share the realities and truth of what's happening to our people out there in those communities.
We know that there are many examples of Native women who have gone missing or who have been murdered. How did you find the stories to highlight in this series?
Well, we wanted to reach out to families who have already been vocal, first and foremost, mainly because the topic and the issue is so sensitive. We don't want to just go after people about things they might not even want to talk about or who might be fearful to share, their truth. So we approach those who have already been very vocal about what's happened to their loved ones, and that's kind of how we all started.
We know that this premiered at Sundance. What was the reaction?
I think this series was really well received. You have to understand that the general population, especially those in North America and beyond, they are not educated about this issue and many issues that affect Native communities. And I think a lot of people were upset. Some were in disbelief that this was happening in our country. And I think a lot of people, for them, it was a wake-up call.
And what are you hoping, that broader audiences are taking away from this series?
We always talk about awareness, and when are we going to change legislation? When are we going to change things regarding law so that these issues aren't occurring like that around all Native communities? And I'm really hoping that the series can catalyze some change, and so that we're moving beyond just awareness. I think we're at the point where so many people are aware in our own communities, but we're still having to inform and educate those outside of our own people. So it's kind of like having to straddle that line of awareness into proactive change.
What was your experience working with a big name like Showtime to tell these kinds of stories?
Surprisingly, I was unsure at first. I mean, I think there's been a lot of extraction from media, outsiders coming into our communities and trying to tell our stories for us. Working with Showtime, it was not like that at all. I was super grateful for them to have backed this project, my vision, along with Matthew's, so that we can do something that was not only meaningful, specific, and heartfelt, but it was very much, I felt like, in line with the stories that they push out there and that they cover with their network. And it felt really good to know that we had the support from Showtime fully to do and ensure what we wanted with with these stories.
Well, Razelle Benally, Director of Murder in Bighorn, thank you so much.
Thank you. Wopila Hiha.
There are a number of factors that have played into why Native Americans have significant disparities in oral health. That includes things like structural racism and a lack of necessities, such as access to healthy food and adequate housing. ICT's Shirley Sneve has this interview with Mescalero Apache dentist Felicia Frizzell.
Felicia Frizzell, thanks for joining us. And I want to talk to you about being a dentist.
When I was in kindergarten, I remember saying, when I grow up, I want to be a dentist, but I didn't really mean it. It was because my kindergarten teacher's husband was a dentist. But I always knew I wanted to be in healthcare. And growing up, I'm the oldest of 7 kids. I'm Mescalero Apache. And we were always at the Indian Health Service Hospital in Mescalero with my mom's pregnancies and just all the things that would happen to us children. So I had a strong interest in science, and I really planned or intended to be a family practice physician. And the dentists at IHS, they were always very interested in me, and they'd say, oh, we're going to make you a dentist. But at that time, I didn't know that dentists were actually doctors. So I thought it was interesting, but I think it's a common mindset on the reservation that you only go to the dentist if you have a toothache. They're only there to fix your teeth. And your teeth aren't really part of the rest of your body. For whatever reason, we have this belief, and even healthcare is set up that medical insurance is different than dental insurance. So there's this whole separation of mouth from body when that's not the reality. The mouth is the window to your overall health. And So I went to college. I was the first in my family to go to college. And at that time I was pre-medicine, and I truly intended to go to medical school. And it wasn't until I was in graduate school doing a master's in biochemistry and molecular biology that I heard some presentations from public health people and Indian Health Service, and they were mentioning that American Indians and Alaska Natives have the highest oral health disparities in the country. And I started asking more questions because I did know, growing up, you see the children with the silver teeth, you see our elders who don't have teeth, and it's just accepted. And I learned that there weren't that many Native dentists. And in fact, the very first Native dentist, Dr. George Blue Spruce, he's still alive and well. And then I also learned that dentists are in fact doctors. We're actually surgeons of the mouth. And the requirements to get into dental school are the same as those to get into medical school. And when I learned more about the dental field and did some shadowing, it just seemed like the perfect fit. As a child, my mom, she taught me how to sew, and my dad taught me how to do beadwork. And I love doing crafts and working with my hands, and just having that hands-on encounter with the patient where you physically do a procedure on them and then you get them out of pain. And you can also educate them, you can improve their lives, and you can also increase their confidence by just improving their smile. It's the best feeling when you've changed someone's confidence and self-esteem, where they feel comfortable going to get a job when before maybe they couldn't smile without uncovering their mouth.
It's interesting that there's a study now that shows that we really do have bad oral care as Native Americans. What's going to happen? I mean, what are we doing to fix that?
In regards to the paper that we worked together on, I really appreciate this paper because it looked at the aspect of racism in healthcare. And, it might be one of the first papers that has done that for American Indian health. And it is an interesting aspect. Like, there are many barriers that prevent people from accessing oral health care, geographic barriers, financial barriers, transportation, fear, but also the way people are treated when they've gone to the dentist, if they've had poor experiences when they were children, they might not want to go back, or if they felt like they were treated poorly because someone didn't understand their culture and why their teeth are the way they are, they might not want to go back. So I believe this is a reason why it's very important for me to treat my people in my community, because we have an understanding and it's less judgmental when we can have that patient-provider encounter. We as Native people know our people the best, and it will take us to fix it. We can't rely on the federal government to fix it. Our tribes are going to have to take responsibility and ownership of our own healthcare. It'll start with an educational pipeline to encourage our young people to go into the medical professions, and also healthcare management, so that we can finance and build our own hospitals and dental clinics to take care of our own people. There must be a focus on preventative dentistry, because if you have a small cavity, it's much more affordable to fix a small cavity than it is to wait and get a root canal and a crown and an implant. So some of us are going to have to help with the preventative dentistry aspect. Some of us are going to have to work on the public policy aspect so that we can expand Medicaid and Medicare to include oral health care as a standard of care and treatment.
The health of your teeth can really affect the health of your whole body. I mean, you can have diseases in your mouth that really become debilitating.
For our pregnant mothers, the oral bacteria can get in the mother's bloodstream and enter the fetus's bloodstream. And there have been studies that show that women with poor oral health, their babies come out at lower birth weight. And that bacteria is found in the womb from the mouth. And the bacteria is pretty aggressive. It can get into your heart. It can cause heart infections. If you're diabetic and your blood sugar is not controlled, People who have diabetes can see ulcerations on their feet, and they can see that those ulcers aren't healing, but the same thing is going on in their mouth with periodontal disease. And if you were to look at the ulceration in the mouth, you would see it's a huge ulcer that's not healing, and people end up losing teeth because of their diabetic condition and their oral health condition being poor.
So Felicia, you've inspired me to keep my teeth clean and to think about my grandchildren going into careers in dentistry. So thank you very much for your advice.
Oh, you're so welcome, Shirley. Thank you for having me again.
The 1973 occupation of Wounded Knee made household names out of men like Carter Camp, Dennis Banks, and Russell Means. But women also played powerful roles in the occupation. They were honored recently during the 50th anniversary commemorations of the key event in American Indian movement history. ICT Shirley, Sneve, and Stewart Huntington were there.
I was not taught my Kiowa traditional ways. I didn't know anything about my Kiowa ways, but it taught me when I went to Wounded Knee of the spirituality of what it was all about, what AIM was all about. And I wanted that. I was hungry for something for that, and I found it through the American Indian movement. I found my spirituality.
About 200 people came to Porcupine, like Diane Bird, who left her teaching job in California to join the occupation. She returned to Pine Ridge for the 50th anniversary commemoration.
I was part of security working with these guys, and they set up a radio, and there was little radios in every bunker, and we kept in touch with each other, and they would ask, and it was controlled. There was a head of security, and the security would know where the people in the bunkers were and what level of fire to respond to, whether it was 100%, 50%, or hold your fire, period. Because we didn't have that many guns, and we didn't have that many bullets for those guns. We were surrounded by federal marshals, by FBI, with tanks, with all the latest weapons, like even from the Army, and we didn't know it, but we learned about that later. And all we had were like little rabbit plunkers, that kind of thing.
Madonna Thunderhawk has participated in every major Red Power operation from Alcatraz to Standing Rock. She says it's no surprise to find women at the forefront.
And when the Red Power movement came, in those days, your community was the ones that made those decisions and decided how things were going to run. So it was automatically a matriarchal system. Still is today. But we don't have to constantly make a big issue of it and run around and, because it's culture, it's tradition. It's the way it is.
Tradition, yes, but the women of Wounded Knee still inspire.
Their actions in coming together and reclaiming their rights as Lakota warriors, Lakota matriarchs, they did that for us. They made an everlasting imprint on generations and generations, bringing back the strength and bringing back the ability for us as, Lakota people to be able to be proud of who we are.
Definitely found the women speaking today to be so inspiring. About a year ago, there was a film screening at the Fargo Theater, and so I was able to sit down with Madonna and her team and her daughter, and so it was a very rich moment to be in the presence of giants that have paved the way for us. But yes, definitely find inspiration from them, and hope to continue pushing the work towards justice forward for all of us.
Pushing forward with a powerful message.
I'm not only a survivor of Wounded Knee, I'm a survivor of rape and abuse, domestic violence. I'm a survivor of those three.
So I call myself, I used to be in the victim stage, or think I was a victim. I'm no longer a victim.
That's a good message.
Yeah. And if you're in that kind of trouble, get help. There's help out there. Get brave enough. Get courage in your heart to take a stand for yourself. That's what it's all about. And that's what AIM taught me. That's what being in Wounded Knee taught me, was to be more bold, speak up. Creator didn't make you a mouth and not say nothing. Speak up.
That courageous act of defiance was the beginning of a new era. I was in high school in 1973. My parents taught at the Flandreau Indian Boarding School in South Dakota. Suddenly, after the occupation of Wounded Knee, we became proud of our Native American heritage. We learned to bead, a simple but powerful way to embrace culture. In Lincoln, Nebraska, Shirley, Sneve, ICT News.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.